Hello, welcome to the Sound of Science, the place where we deconstruct unscientific bogus and silly scams. Let's go get them. Hello, you wonderful critical thinkers. Today my attention was caught by a video of the Christian apologist Trent Horn, and he wants to educate us about logical fallacies. What? A Christian apologist who thinks he's in a position to berate other people about using logical fallacies? That's highly remarkable. Let's have a look at that.
There are many fallacies that can turn your argument into an illogical mess, but there's one that carries more smugness and condescension than any other.
Trent, are you sure that you want to continue this? Because YouTube is paved with thousands of videos demonstrating logical fallacies committed by Christian apologists such as yourself. I think your options to educate others about this can only be taken seriously when you will be that one and first Christian apologist who will make an appeal to his fellow Christians and will tell them to, from now on, be honest. Tell them to drop the obvious and embarrassing logical fallacies, and from now on only make claims that are supported by sufficient evidence. That would be the honest and even brave thing to do for you. But I'm afraid that's not what's going to happen. What I predict before watching your video is that you will either commit an entire bunch of logical fallacies yourself, or you will completely ignore the most blatant logical fallacies that are inherent to your own religious beliefs. Or maybe you will do both. Let's continue.
And that is the faulty appeal to authority.
Trent, the argument from authority fallacy is the most unfortunate fallacy that you could have chosen. Because, Trent, your entire belief system is one big argument from authority fallacy. The fundamental assumption of Christianity is that a God exists who is always right and who never makes mistakes because he is God. That basically is the definition of the argument from authority fallacy. And it gets worse, Trent. You are a Christian apologist. It is your job to defend the claims of Christianity. It doesn't matter if your God drowns all babies and children or kills all the firstborns of Egypt. As long as your God does it, it is right because he is your God. You've built an entire career on justifying that kind of crap by using that argument from authority fallacy over and over again. You wouldn't be able to pay your rent or your mortgage if it wasn't for you committing the argument from authority fallacy every day of your life. So, Trent, that makes you berating others for applying the argument from authority fallacy an embarrassing and hypocritical clown show. And you've accomplished all of that in the first 10 seconds of your video. This is basically where I should stop watching this nonsense. But well then, I will try to be a bit more patient. Not that it will help, but I'm in a good mood today. At least I was in a good mood today.
A fallacy is just bad reasoning, and the appeal to authority becomes bad reasoning when you say X is true simply because an authority says it's true.
Yeah, exactly. So you saying, my God is always right because he is my God, and my God is always right, that is an argument from authority fallacy. In fact, it is the most clear example of an argument from authority fallacy in existence, because no Christian will ever question the authority of his God. Just test it yourself, Trent. When was the last time you questioned the authority of your God? I'm curious, Trent. When did you ever question the authority of your God? I wonder how you will maneuver your way out of this, Trent, because the longer you talk about the argument from authority fallacy, the deeper a hole you dig for yourself.
The appeal to authority becomes bad reasoning when you say X is true simply because an authority says it's true, especially if it's an invalid authority.
Oh my Gandalf, I'm flabbergasted by your dishonesty, Trent. You're only 40 seconds into your video and already you misrepresent the argument from authority fallacy, so that later on you can say the argument from authority fallacy does not apply to my God because he is a valid authority. This is intellectually disgusting, Trent. Try to be honest even if it's hard for you. Saying that X is true because authority X says so is always a logical fallacy. Always. within that fallacy, there is no distinction between valid authorities and invalid authorities. I must emphasize this. Saying that X is true because an authority said so is always a logical fallacy, regardless of who the authority is. What a disappointment.
This happens with people who are really smart about one thing, who then believe that their intelligence makes them smart on many other unrelated subjects. Neil deGrasse Tyson may know a lot about astrophysics, so when Tyson makes arguments against God or religion, he is well out of his depth because he is a scientist, not a philosopher.
Ah, you're now even applying the reversed argument from authority fallacy. That's only for advanced charlatans. What Neil deGrasse Tyson says about your God can't be true because he's not an authority on your God. That's a fallacy, Trent. A stone-cold reversed argument from authority fallacy. You do exactly what you accuse others of doing, but I think you know that.
The same is true of Richard Dawkins, who is a decent biologist, and Sam Harris, who's a decent neuroscientist.
And doubling down on your fallacy, Dawkins and Harris cannot be right about your God because they are not authorities on your God. How can you not see that you have to judge every claim on its own merit, and whoever makes the claim is irrelevant to the truth of the claim? That is what your entire video was supposed to be about, but apparently you only embrace that principle when it suits you.
Consider this passage from one of Sam Harris's articles. He writes, "Most polls show that about 90% of the general public believes in a personal God. Yet 93% of the members of the National Academy of Sciences do not."
Well, that's not a fallacy, is it? That's just Sam Harris proclaiming facts that are demonstrably true. You can check those facts for yourself if you want to.
The National Academy of Sciences only has about 2,000 members, while there are more than 2 million scientists employed in the United States as a whole. This means that the NAS represents only about 1/10 of 1% of all scientists in the US, so it's not a representative sample.
Well, Trent, since you keep hammering on this, you, as a Christian apologist, you're well out of your depth when talking about statistics. 2,000 out of 2 million can be a representative sample. That would depend on the method that is used. By the way, the National Academy of Sciences is not some random membership club. Membership is awarded to the most distinguished scientists of the entire nation. This is the upper layer of smartest people in the entire country. Guess what? They're all atheists, which is interesting.
Even if scientists tended to be atheists, that wouldn't prove atheism is true.
And you also don't understand atheism. Atheism doesn't make any claim about anything, so suggesting it is true or untrue is a nonsense statement.
Instead, this 2009 Pew Research survey shows that 51% of scientists believe in God or a higher power.
Trent, do you want to discuss logical fallacies or will you keep committing them? Because what you just did looked like an argumentum ad populum fallacy. 51% of scientists believe in God, so it must be true. Well, you didn't say the last thing, but why else would it be relevant for you to tell us that 51% of scientists believe in a God? Which, by the way, still means that the more academic you are, the more atheistic you are. Because 83% of the general public in the US believes in a God.
And we should remember that some of the brightest minds in scientific history were religious, including people like Georges Lemaitre, the Catholic priest who helped formulate the Big Bang Theory.
Trent, why should we remember that? How is it relevant that Georges Lemaitre was a Catholic? Are you suggesting that it gives more credibility to Catholicism because Georges Lemaitre was a Catholic? I can hardly believe that you're trying to suggest that, because that would be an argument from authority fallacy, remember? That was the topic of your video.
So when people make arguments from authority against the faith, we need to point out if they are actually faulty authorities. Some things we know, like God being a trinity, come from the surest kind of appeal to authority, God's authority. That's why Aquinas says, although the argument from authority based on human reason is the weakest, yet the argument from authority based on divine revelation is the strongest.
And there we are. The argument from authority fallacy is a smug trick used by these arrogant atheists, but we Christians can apply that fallacy whenever we want, because our God is always right and his authority can never be questioned. Of course, this is what you were aiming for with this video. Just as I predicted at the beginning, Trent, people like you are the embodiment of Christian hypocrisy. in a video in which you accuse other people of being smug and arrogant, you yourself are claiming that your religious belief represents the one and only truth that comes from an authority that can never be questioned. Trent, this is why so many people hate Christian apologists, and even sometimes hate Christians in general, because of people like you who tell others what to do and what not to do, while you break your own rules in the same minute. As long as people like you are behaving like this, Christianity will have a bad name among non-Christians. It really is so disappointing and pretty shameful. Thanks for watching.